I'm GM Blue, a GM player on the NA server, fittingly, and I'm here to walk you through the best legends for patch 13.13. In S tier, we have Draven and Ezreal, and between the two of them, I think one is much better than the other. We'll talk about that in a moment. Aurelion Sol is in A tier, Bard is in D tier, unfortunately still. Caitlyn is in B tier, Lee Sin in D, Master Yi in C, Ornn in A, Pengu in C, Poro in B, Tahm Kench in C, TF in D, Urf in B, but arguably A, Veigar in B, and then Vladimir in C. Now, I will talk about each one of these different legends individually, but before I do that, let me talk about the methodology in terms of how I sorted each one of these different legends, which was purely, almost purely through stats. And stats are going to go away in about 2 weeks, so this is one of the last times, or one of the last patches we're going to be able to do this for, unfortunately. But let me go ahead and show you my methodology here. So each legend guarantees a certain augment at different stages of the game. I took the stats for each one of those augments. I multiplied it by the probability that you would see that type of augment in order to find, bada bing, bada boom, the expected value. And then I took the overall expected value, which is the 2-1, 3-2, and 4-2 expected value averaged together. And here are the results. Draven is busted. Twisted Fate is garbage. Move on with your life. That's all you need to know. We are done. No, I'll talk about each one of these individually, but if this is all you care about is these stats, then here's the stats. You can make your decisions based off of that. I know Mortdog may not want you to, but that's where we are. Okay. So the big things of note here is that with Draven, all three of his augments, no matter what stage you're looking at in the game, are really good. So his 2-1 augments are really good. Prismatic is insane. His 3-2 augments are really good, and his 4-2 augments are really good as well. With Ezreal, what makes him so good is that his 2-1 augments are really good. His silver augment's actually the best one in the game, or one of the best in the game. His 3-2 augments are really solid. His Prismatic is like a broken. And then his 4-2 augments are basically all untakeable. This is actually what makes it so that if I pull up these legend conclusions, he's a 4.37. But the reason he's in S tier and Aurelion Sol is not is because his 2-1 augment and 3-2 augment are really good. And the 2-1 augment in particular seems to be the thing that most people care about, specifically this gold augment. So if I look at Ezreal's gold augment, it's a 4.15. You look at Aurelion Sol's, it's a 4.44. So that's the main reason that there's a little bit of difference in the tier list between Aurelion Sol and Ezreal. But listen, there are a lot of viable options here. It's not just Draven and Ezreal. Now, that's probably what most of the high tier players are going to be playing. But if you look at Aurelion Sol, they really buffed his 3-2 augment quite significantly at Silver and Prismatic. His Prismatic is actually one of the best in the game. And then his 4-2 augments are now takeable. So if you want to go Fast 9, yeah, guess what? Aurelion Sol will get you there, and it does not look like it's that bad. Well, actually, Fast 9 might be bad, but just generally econing and going like Fast 8 maybe seems like it might be viable with Aurelion Sol. We'll see what the playstyle ends up being as time goes on. Ornn, same spot that he filled last patch, except he's not S tier. He's now A tier. Main reason for that is that he really felt the nerfs in his 3-2 augments, but his 3-2 augments still very takeable. 4-2 augments still very takeable. In fact, the big thing to note about Ornn is there's really nothing you're disappointed to see from all of his augments. There is absolutely nothing that is below average for Ornn. And they really buffed his Prismatic. His Prismatic is quite strong now. So that was something that was weak about Ornn previously, is you would never take his 2-1 Prismatic. And that was a big deal because of Jace's Workshop. But now his Prismatic is actually one of the best of all the different legends, with the exception of, unfortunately, Draven, who has him beat in a bunch of other stuff. Expect to get Jace's Workshop voted for a lot as a result of Draven, by the way. Caitlyn is quite strong now because her 3-2 and 4-2 augments were buffed quite a bit. So if we pull up Caitlyn here, you look at Knowledge Download, we talked about that with Aurelion Sol. The Silver and Prismatic versions are really good. And then Rolling for Days is very good, and that was the Draven augment as well that was offered on 4-2. The main thing of note here, though, is that, in my opinion, there's really no reason to take Caitlyn over Draven. The identity of Caitlyn is early game strength, but unfortunately these augments are weak enough that I don't know that it's worth justifying picking her. might be okay in some of the like lower elo, but I don't expect Caitlyn to get picked a whole lot in higher elo because she's really kind of just a worse Draven. Poro continues to be quite good, of course. The main thing of note is I actually gathered the stats for what your average silver, average gold is at each stage, and as you might expect, it's pretty close to 4.5 as a benchmark. However, this is like the worst that the stats can be, because the thing about Poro is that it's not factoring in, this is just like completely random, but those augments are actually tailored to your board. So you're more likely to get those broken trait augments, you're more likely to get those broken emblem augments. So I want to note that Poro is better than these stats indicate. If I pull up these Legends conclusions and you see Poro down here at 4.47, just keep in mind that you're getting one extra slot that's tailored to your board when you play Poro rather, out of your 6 slots. Now, whether or not that really makes it better than something like Draven, probably not, but it is something that makes it better than these stats imply. So Poro can be quite good. Urf is also a legend that I think is a lot better than the stats imply, because right now, really all of his strength comes from his 3-2 and 4-2 augments, but his identity comes from his 2-1 augment. And right now, his 2-1 augment looks horrible, but I think that's because a lot of people don't know what the broken emblems are. If you go on to tactic.tools or you go to meta TFT, there are some really good augments that exist right now in the current patch. And so I think Urf might be one of those legends, just like he was sort of last patch, where if you know the game really well, I think Urf is going to be, I don't think he's going to be B tier. He might actually be A tier. He might be played by some of the high elo players as well that like his sort of play style. Veigar, quite strong if you like playing AP comps. They really buffed his 3-2 augments in particular. The 4-2 augments are still takeable, and actually his weakest augments are his 2-1 augments, although the Prismatic Jeweled Lotus continues to be quite decent, but the silver and gold versions, especially gold, not the best in terms of your 2-1 hero, or not hero augments, your 2-1 augments. In C tier, we have Master Yi. Actually, believe it or not, I think there's going to be a world where there will be a meta build for Master Yi. And the only reason I say this is that towards the end of last patch, people were playing Master Yi with Zed and Kled. And Zed and Kled are really strong right now. So we might see Master Yi see some play. I'm not totally sure on that one. But he was seeing some play last patch with Zed and Kled. And given that Zed and Kled look really strong right now with the Slayer buffs, yeah, we might see more Master Yi. We'll see whether or not that happens or not. Pengu, in my opinion, continues to sort of lack a real good identity. He's supposed to be there for beginners, but I honestly think he's just mediocre across the board. Honestly, he might even belong in D tier, but according to the stats, he doesn't, so I'll just leave him here for now. But I don't really like Pengu that much. Tahm Kench, if you want to get rich, you can get rich. The main thing about him is that his 2-1 augments continue to not be the best, with the exception of AFK, but you can see here 4.71 and 4.69, even with the buffs to Hedge Fund, not really that good. But Balanced Budget is very good. Unfortunately, you get it with Draven as well. So again, Draven just feels like it's better. And then the 4-2 augment, pretty good as well. They balanced that out quite a bit. So if you like money, Tahm Kench might be the option for you. Vladimir is just generally a good combat-based, or I wouldn't say good, but he fills his role of being like an average combat-based legend. So if you like his augments, he is playable. I would say anything in C tier and up is like very playable. Like you're not going to notice a huge difference, except for Draven, who looks to be like way better, in my opinion, than most other things. But these are all viable. Then we get into D tier. These are less viable. I think Bard is just... they buffed his gold augment with the rework, but his silver and prismatics are basically untakeable. And then his 3-2 augment's quite good, but then his 4-2 augment, they really nerfed the heck out of this to nerf TF. So now Bard really, in my opinion, is not takeable. You have Lee Sin. They nerfed on a roll and kind of took away the one thing that he was known for. I don't know that there's going to be enough to make him playable. There are reroll comps that are known in this patch so far. Not seeing a whole lot of Lee Sin though. We'll see. I don't think he's that good as of right now, but that might change as time goes on, just like it did with the previous patch. And then TF. Okay, so TF is obviously the most drama-filled champion or legend of all. The main thing of note here is that statistically, he is far and away the worst champion in the game. It is not even close. I don't think you're going to see a lot of him in high elo right now. However, this is not necessarily an indication that he's the worst champion. What happens with TF is that he enables builds that would not otherwise work because of specific item combinations. And all of the builds that worked with him, like Garen, which required, you specifically have Rageblade plus Bloodthirster and 6 Zeeks for the Garen, or in the case of the Bastion Locket comp, you needed to have, double Rageblade plus, at least 2 Lockets. There were a lot of specific item combinations that were broken together. If people are still trying those comps got nerfed into the ground. Okay, so what I expect is happening for Twisted Fate is that the people who are playing him are playing the same Twisted Fates comps from last patch that are no longer viable, but there will be new Twisted Fate comps that are discovered in this patch, and I suspect that when those comps are discovered, his stats will go up. Okay, so do not take this as saying that Twisted Fate is unplayable. He is definitely going to be playable. I just think the comps that are broken with him, they all got nerfed into the ground. And so new comps are going to have to get discovered that are good with him. And then he'll probably rise up again and, we'll have more drama with that. But that's it. That's all the different legends for patch 13.13. I hope this helps. Good luck with your climb.